Welcome back to my channel once again. This video is titled Work Discipline and Process Mapping. The two most important aspects of any good and successful work are discipline and process mapping. These enable us to avoid confusion. You can bring discipline in your work only through a proper, simple, and effective process map of your work. This map will help you to avoid mistakes in your work. It is also known as process flow chart or workflow chart. Here, I have showed how to do the process mapping without following the standard corporate rules or process mapping format. You should always use your own style and format, something that you are comfortable with. Use a pencil and an eraser to prepare the process map, because you will be required to keep deleting and changing your chart till it is finalized. Your process flow chart should be reviewed periodically by you and kept updated all the time. Do not destroy the old chart, retain it for a period of 3 months to 1 year, depending upon the nature of your work. Because you may have to refer back to the previous process flow method for your work. Be disciplined in your work, arrange everything methodically, put things back in their proper places after use, so that it is easy to find them when you need them again. Be systematic in the execution of your work. Do process mapping for every process or work that you are handling. Keep this process map as your own personal guidance and reference point. This process mapping should be done by you individually for the work that you are handling. Irrespective of the process map that exists in your department or in your team's work plan. Your process mapping is only your part of the work that you are handling personally. This is how the mapping should be done. For every work or process there is always a start point and an end point. Start point can be 1. The actual beginning of the process. That means the work is starting from here. 2. It can be the continuation of some other ongoing work. That means you are taking over from someone else after completion of a particular section of the work. Thereafter that other person's work has ended, because the work has been handed over to you. Or maybe, the other person's work is still continuing and the part that you have taken over is a simultaneous process of the same work. 3. After completion of some other work, your work begins. That means, you cannot begin your part of the work, till someone else completes his or her part of the work. After completion of that work, the next part of the work comes to you. End point can be 1. The actual end of the process. That means the work is ending here finally, there is no further work to be done after this. 2. After you reach a particular stage in your work, you hand over the work to someone else. Because it is a continuation of a particular work which both of you are doing. Here your work has ended, but that person's work is continuing. 3. After completion of your work, it is handed over to someone else. That means, someone cannot begin his or her part of the work, till you complete your work. After completion of your work, the next part of the work goes to someone else. Remember that in your process map, you will show only your part of the entire work process. To begin with, break up your work process into steps, so that they are easier to plot in the process map. Example, a fictitious work process for a procurement manager. Suppose, you are responsible for procuring raw materials for the manufacturing unit. If I break the process up into different steps. 1. Departments and persons you are interacting with. 2. What you procure for which department. 3. Who are your vendors? That means, dealers and suppliers. 4. How your procurement work begins. 5. Receiving instructions to procure from the department and/or manufacturing unit. 6. Discussing with the department and/or manufacturing unit. 7. Sending the request to the vendor or supplier. 8. Receiving the quotation from the vendor or supplier. 9. Taking the quotation past the department and/or manufacturing unit for approval. 10. Discussing the quotation with the vendor or supplier before raising the purchase order. 11. Taking the purchase order past the department and/or manufacturing unit for approval. 12. Releasing the purchase order. 13. Receiving the ordered item. 14. Checking the item before accepting. 15. Rejection of item, if any, then returning the same to the vendor for replacement. 16. Accepting the item and forwarding to the manufacturing unit. 17. Informing the department about receipt of the item. 18. Forwarding the bill to the accounts department. That is, if the bill is received by you. On top of the chart, put the names of the departments and the designations of the persons you are interacting with. It is preferable not to put the names. Then put the names of the items you are procuring, and the departments or persons for whom you are procuring them. After that, put the names of the vendors and dealers, and the names of the items you are procuring from each one of them. Now the process mapping will begin. Because of space constraint, I had to break up the process mapping chart into 5 sections. This chart is only a guideline for you, to make you understand the simplest way of creating it. I will read out the chart, as I have created it. Request received from the department and/or manufacturing unit. On receipt of request, reviewing it and then discussing with the department and/or manufacturing unit. Here I have broken it down into 2 parts. Changes required in the request. Changes not required in the request. Under changes not required, I have put proceeding with the procurement work. Under changes required, I have put waiting for the revised request. Revised request received. After that, you proceed with the procurement work. Sending the request to the vendor or supplier. Receiving the quotation from the vendor or supplier. Sending the quotation to the department and/or manufacturing unit for approval. Here again, I have broken it up into 2 parts. Approval not received. Approval received. If approval is not received, then you send the quotation back to the vendor or supplier for further revision. Revised quotation received. Then you send the revised quotation to the department and/or manufacturing unit for approval. Approval received. Discussing with the vendor or supplier. Preparing the purchase order. Taking approval from the department and/or manufacturing unit. Releasing the purchase order. Receiving the ordered items. Checking them before accepting. While checking, there may be rejection of item, if any. Returning to the vendor and requesting for replacement. Replacement received. Checking them before accepting. Accepting and informing the department and/or manufacturing unit. And forwarding the items to the manufacturing unit. Forwarding the bill to the accounts department. You will follow this step only if the bill is received by you. This sample process mapping chart will help you to prepare your own process chart in whichever way you are comfortable with. If you have liked this video, then please click on the subscribe button. And keep watching my informative videos on various interesting topics. Thank you and have a great day.